Let's get started in the second raid released in Destiny 1, Crota's End. Crota players have had by far the most alterations made to the raid and have set unbelievable records under the 7-minute barrier. Our segment guest, Sham Minecraft 600, will help us start off with the greatest Crota players of all time. Holder of over a dozen Crota world records, Robski has been the model Crota specialist for years now. Unquestionably the best Abiscuit player, Robski has achieved the last 7 consecutive Crota world records, 4 of which were performed alongside his friend and fellow 100 member, A4 Harry. Harry is the best Crota one-down player in the game's history, and was one of the most dominant Crota players on almost every one of his records. These two have been a 1A, 1B as the best Crota players in the world for years, without a close third. Mice, please start us on these pivotal Crota players.
Robski was the first Crota player I kind of met. He was, very good Crota player. I met him in a Crota LOG and he pretty much carried the entire time. He introduced me to Harry. Harry was also a very, very good player. At that time, he was kind of better than Robski, and it was noticeable. It took me a while to get good friends with Harry, but those two were known for dominating Crota, and they still are. If Harry wanted to come back and dominate Crota, he could, for sure. Same thing with Robski. Robski texted me the other day, he was like, I want to make a Crota team, and I was like, y'all got that. And, he couldn't find anybody to play with, but I know for a fact if he found somebody, he definitely probably could have gotten it. Crota right now is probably still the best record. It's like 2 seconds off absolute time lock. Me, Robski, and Harry kind of made current Crota gatekeeper dupe, which was cool. I was in class and we were talking about math stuff. Those two for sure best Crota players without a doubt.
As far as Robski and Harry go, I don't think I've played with either of them. The main thing is obviously the PS4 versus Xbox, and I never wanted to get an Xbox just to play D1
Yeah.
as much fun as it would have been. I've talked to Harry very briefly. Recently, he sent me some messages asking about solo Crota and what my main time losses were. And so I expected to see a video in the next week of him beating it, but I guess he must not have ran it. And then, Robski, same thing. It was funny. I don't fully remember exactly what happened, but there was a kind of segment when after the Crota time had been beat, the team Crota time, where Robski was going to run on PS4, and then he ditched everyone on PS4 to go play Xbox and was like, oh, it's plan B. And I don't know why, but that was some weird Xbox PS4 classic beef that obviously everyone forgot about in a week anyway. But
As it always does.
Yeah, and then I think it was me, Tristan, Shiflet, Cam, Kavik, and oh god, why can't I remember now? Anyway, it was a team something like that, and we ran Crota for a really small amount of time doing dupe, and Shiflet and I probably spent fucking 20 hours in Crota on bridge trying to do this crazy dupe strat where you pocket sword. Anyway, we never actually ran with that because it was super inconsistent, but I remember we beat the non-dupe time by 6 seconds with dupe, which is a minute time save, so we just never posted it. And I don't think anyone knows that record ever happened, because it was only the record for a month until another team beat it. And it was just the shittest run ever. But as far as Robski and Harry, though I've never actually talked to them, they both seem like pretty chill guys. And Harry, I've watched the solo Crota videos quite a bit. I think he's especially post AOT definitely the most dominant, at least solo Crota player.
Without question.
And Robski, still to this day, with team Crota players and solo as well. I'm sure if he wanted the record, he could go get it in an instant.
Introducing the next person we bring in as a Crota player, Sepix. Sepix is a 7-time world record holder and a top-tier Warlock runner in Crota. Sepix was a part of the Xbox Crota A team for an entire year, always is the best Warlock for the team. A consistent Crota downer, he's one of the greatest raiders of all time.
So Sepix, I mean, not really someone that I've heard about that much. Definitely, I don't think I've ever talked to the guy, but yeah, I mean, really good Warlock player on Crota, and especially in like team runs, having a consistent Warlock who isn't constantly missing fusions or breaking the fly if they ever do that, it makes a huge difference in a run.
Sepix, he was cool. I mean, me and him were pretty good friends. I mean, me and him did budgets hella. And then Robski was making a Crota team, and I was like, get Sepix, he's a really good Warlock. Robski was like, alright, we'll see. And we got Sepix, didn't fuck up once. He wanted to do Warlock. We were like, alright, fine. Very good Warlock player. Pretty much anything about Crota he knew he could do. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Turning back the clock almost a decade, we have 3 new entries from the pre-D2 era, starting with Swetzical. Swetzical was the one who uploaded the first viral speedrun of Destiny to YouTube, was one of the fastest skaters in the game, and was a staple in speedruns in the 2016 era. Alongside him is Glad. The first to dive into many Crota challenges, varying from blindfolding to using a microphone and macro to solo kill him. Glad was also the first person to ever one-sword Crota on the 390 difficulty. Lastly, there is Baxley. Inventor of the Baxley skate, he set many records beside the Great Cruelty. Baxley is the owner of the longest-standing world record with an unheard of for the time 751 solo pre-AOT Crota, and was the earliest player to receive a unanimous induction into the top 100. Sham, we will go to you for these Crota players.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll start off with Sweat. Yeah, a lot of team speeds with those. I remember watching them when I was younger, right? Because 2016, that would have been like 7 years ago. So I was 11, and watching these guys do these runs with everyone, because it used to be everyone backed out and kept rejoining over and over and over again.
They never so they wouldn't get weight. Yeah, I remember that.
And that strat to me was so like insane and the most game breaking thing. And looking at that to now what tech is so crazy. But yeah, I mean, Sweat, crazy team records, and they held the pre-AOT for such a long time. And that team, like Redeem, was kind of just unbeatable at the time. And I think they're, as much as their legacy might not be the same in D2, it's still pretty crazy how they, they're set in stone in D1.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Glad, yeah, I mean, dude, I saw challenges and just how crazy good of a solar player he was. It's pretty funny watching back. I remember I recently watched a video of him going back over all of his solo Crota challenges in D1, and it's just it's ridiculous. Like and the creativity that it took to come up with those. I know that was a huge.
Who gets out Guitar Hero equipment for this shit? Like that's something. If people watched the extended intro, that's what they saw there. That's Glad right there, just casually doing that, suit and tie and all. It's crazy.
It's super funny, but yeah, I mean, just a crazy good player, and yeah, as you mentioned, first trying solo Crota on 390 is just like stupid.
Some respect for the originality. Like he did some shit that was out of pocket, like the Rock Band controller shit for Crota that you really had to think outside the box to get to even like attempt. So props to Glad for being original. I don't know. As content creators, they do a really good job getting people into the game. Like back in the day when a lot of speedrunners started playing, these were the people that they were looking at their videos going, "Holy shit, I want to do that."
Dude, the first time I saw somebody hit a backsley, I was like, wait, you could just like go across without the bridge, period? Like I had never seen at that point, like this is, very, very early on in my Destiny career. I had never seen, somebody head off to the right and then sword swing across. Literally my first exposure to all of this like elite level rating was seeing Baxley way back in 2016 2017, hitting all of these insane, like what I thought at the time was like, dude, this is like a pixel perfect route you gotta take. You gotta skate so fast. And I cannot tell you like just how many other people thought exactly like me at the time about, it's like, these guys, there's no way anybody in the world is better than these guys, because they're doing all of this so incredibly difficult stuff, and they're doing it like so easily, so effortlessly. They had such an impact on the game early on, and there's a lot of things that they started in speedrunning that we still use today.
Yeah, before and after, a little bit after D2 came out, I think these were really the guys who started kind of the wave of thinking outside the box with this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Baxley created the Baxley, of course. Baxley knew Crota very, very, very well. Baxley is probably in my current knowledge, he was probably the first, like, very good Crota player. I mean, maybe there's somebody before him, I don't know, but I did talk to him, and he was a cool guy. Like, he knew everything about Crota. I could ask him anything.
But yeah, and then Baxley, obviously creator of the Baxley, which is one of the most like important bits of tech in Crota, like just whether that's as a team or like solo. And I mean, yeah, the longest standing solo Crota record, which will never be beat, I don't think. I remember Baxley's runs I would watch constantly. Like I think I was the biggest Redeem fanboy when I was 11, 12, and I would constantly like just rewatch Baxley's like solo Crotus record. And I remember I really, really wanted to try and run for it, but I was so horrendous at the game that it just never happened. And it's one of those things that even now I'd love to go back and try running it, but just without being able to have Fellwinters on. That's the main thing, right? Because artifacts aren't in
They don't exist back
pre-OT
then
anymore. So you just can't really do Abyss Fly. Like you can, but it's way more inconsistent, and obviously 30 FPS is a huge pain. But yeah, I mean Baxley, probably my favorite D1 player, just because of how religiously I watched his videos. And yeah, that 751 especially. I swear to God, I could tell you every single line from that video. But it's yeah, it was cool. Those guys were all like such legends to me when I was a kid, and they definitely are a huge part as far as like why I decided to start speedrunning the game.
Member of the most recent PlayStation Crota record team, T-R- is here. His 3 career world records in both Crota and King's Fall help him achieve a sub 1 hour speed rank. Previously holding a record in the Crota Duo category and earning the title as one of the greatest King's Fall hunters of all time, he is an all-time Destiny raider. Mice, I'll get your thoughts on this entry to start.
When I first went to PlayStation, I did some Crota, and T-Dash was there, and he was probably the Crota player on PlayStation. Very good at play, like was just an all-around very good Crota player. Very cool guy too. Me and him got to be pretty good friends, like pretty much instantly. I was like in the party when he was teaching people Crota stuff. Like I said, like could pretty much do anything on Crota.
Yeah, so T-R- or T-or or Tristan, really good friend of mine. We've ran Duo Crota so much, and yeah, I mean, it sucks that our time got beat now twice, first by Robski and G5, and then again by Robski and Harry, which, to be fair, is a fitting duo to hold that title. But
if any two were gonna do it.
yeah, if any two are gonna do it, I mean, I'd love to go back and run it again one day, but it's one of those things where I'd only run it with Tristan again, and I don't. We've talked about it, and it's like it's just not something that we're gonna sink time into again. But I mean, yeah, great player in both Crota and, as you mentioned, King's Fall Hunter, really really good, like all around, and just a chill guy to talk to. I think the worst part about playing with Tristan is the fact that he's British, meaning he's British and and time zone difference. So dude's like 11 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Constantly. So actually finding a time to get some runs in was borderline impossible. But yeah, just a good player all around.
A former clan member with All in Wall, Harry Esk, is also one of the greatest raiders to ever play. Held records in both King's Fall and in Crota, and is a very consistent top 3 runner in every team he has been on, and certainly has one of the smoothest voices in the game. We introduce him alongside his good friend Uncupied Candy. A 1 hour, 8 minute time and 1,300 Crota clears, most of which coming from the level 33 difficulty. He was a one-of-a-kind player that left the game as a phenomenal King's Fall and Crota player. Wall, I'll let you speak on these two first.
Alright, so Death Guy, one of my besties from 2020. At the time, really genuinely, I believe he was the best at most things at Crota. He was R1 down, he was hitting despawn very fast, and he was very active in helping us find stretch and shit. He was always online when we were like just looking for shit on Crota, which was a lot.
There is a big thing, although I never did like competitive speedruns with these two in Crota. I do need to mention something about Candy's ability on Crota, even if it's on like, you know, a lower budget level. He taught me a lot of fundamentals that I still use today. Like I didn't know at the time that he taught me this that, you know, if you're coming across, because he taught me this before PDR was invented, so basically it was like the way to get back was you have to bring the sword over and then die on the edge of the bridge. He taught me that a lot simpler to pass over swords, because all you have to do is use the momentum that you've already built up trying to get across the bridge to toss the sword over to where it's like halfway on the plate. You don't have to like edge up with the person on there and then risk them dying, and then you can die and self-res or die and get revived depending on your difficulty. There's just a lot of small things that I think this guy had perfected and really like never got to showcase it, and I have tons of respect for him showing me, who was, you know, I was terrible at Crota, still am terrible at Crota, but you know, showing one of the little guys how to get better at it.
Death Guy was really one of those guys who would like he would talk to anybody. Like you could have downloaded the game 2 days ago, and if you caught on to a sense of humor and you played into the jokes and you laughed
Yep.
and you weren't a dick, he would play with you. Like, it didn't matter. He was one of those people who was really responsible for like information flowing throughout the community and not just staying in one group. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Harry Esk, another very fun guy to talk to. He was a really great warlock. I remember that jump over the death barrier to get across bridge was something that he did flawlessly without talking about. We didn't even know it was difficult. And then we found out because no one else could do it, and they were trying to figure out what the fuck he was doing. But this guy hit it every time, no problem, and never said a word. So that was kind of silly. He was really an exemplary warlock, yeah.
Formerly known as Bizzle, Partly has been an outstanding Crota player for the 2020s. While never holding a world record, he was an extremely consistent member of several elite raid teams and was also a great Wrath player. As I have played with him several times, I will start us off on him. Simply put, Bizzle has the worst load speeds in the entirety of the top 100. Because he played in early 2020, and it was at that time that, like, we were starting to get SSDs before next-gen consoles were a thing. We would get SSDs and put Destiny in that, plug that into our console, and then we'd have what were considered fast loads. If you play Destiny 1 on a next-gen console, these are the only load speeds you've ever known. But Bizzle had the worst because I don't know why. He had to have been working on, like, the worst Xbox, like, the worst hard drives you could find. Every single black screen, wipe screen, whatever it was that you would see in Crota, he just made it longer. And that's bad for Crota because the black screen between Abyss skip or Abyss ending and bridge starting, the timer doesn't stop there, so it's a guaranteed time loss just having him in your team. And despite that, Bizzle was still on a lot of Crota record teams. He kind of showed up at a bad time to where it's like they didn't have the players that, Robski and Harry were known to dominate with. Mice hadn't really gotten his feet wet yet. But it's like, he's so fast at skating and he's so good at Crota that despite being a guaranteed time loss from the black screen taking so much longer, he was still a part of all these record teams, and it's very, very impressive.
Bizzle. Me and him go way back. Very good Crota player. Skated hella quick. We would have him on last sword because of how fast he skated. It was kind of funny because he was in Australia, and we would always blame him for slow load times.
He did have really bad loads, though, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think I don't remember if we got a record with him, but I know we were on pace for something crazy with him.
No, he never got a world record.
Yeah, okay. So I know we were on pace for something crazy, but I think something happened on Destiny or something. But like I said, he was, in terms of like skating, that motherfucker was the best skater I've ever seen. Like, I was crazy at it. And he said he didn't have a macro. I don't know how true that is, but I mean, we would pretty much only get him for last sword because of how fast he skated.
I like to teach the world to sing with me.